What's up, guys? I'm just leaving here. Address is 1333 South Orange Grove Avenue in Los Angeles. Currently one of the dumpiest places in the entire world. So I'll just take you along a ride with me for real quick, and you can see a little bit outside, and then I also have the other cameras, so I'm also just going to do this as a test for my selfie driving angle. Woohoo! So we're going to go ahead and hang a turn right here down the job site street. Our job site is not the one rough framed right here with the Pettibone. It is the one next to it that's stuccoed. We will go ahead and merge for this van. And we're off. Okay, making a right on Pico, which will be followed by an immediate left on Fairfax. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit today about the coronavirus. I just finished wrapping up a site walk, and it turns out one of the assistant superintendents on a job site, this one in particular, has had the coronavirus, and his daughter had the coronavirus, and his wife was extremely concerned about it, even to the point where she was crying, and she was crying because she's afraid. And I'm afraid that's what unintelligent watching of the generic news media will do to you, is put you into a panic mode. The craziest thing about panic mode for this gal was that she was sitting there crying while her husband was full-on infected with the coronavirus, and her daughter, and the only symptoms to be found was a little bit of a headache for that guy, but his kid, she was running around like nothing was wrong. Now, I get it. If you've got vulnerable people at home, you should not be irresponsible, okay? You should not be irresponsible, but you should educate yourself. You know, when somebody's so uneducated, they tend to go to an extreme because they're afraid of being wrong. And, you know, you can see this example in people that are still, to this day, we'll probably see some right now on the street we're going on, driving in their own car, in their own environment, more than 20 feet away from anybody else, but yet still wearing their mask in their car. And I understand it. When there's an unknown, it's better safe than sorry. But once the data comes out, use your brain. Even my kids are like, wow, Dad, see all these people driving around in their own stinking car with a mask on? And I'm like, yeah, I know, because even at your age, you can put together how that does not make sense. If this pandemic was as bad as the general mainstream media, and for all my fact-checking friends out there, when I say mainstream media, I'm speaking specifically of cable news, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, NBC, ABC, CBS, any one of those channels that you could just turn on and watch the morning news. And it started out like this with my kids. I said, if you're watching a news show and the story that comes on the news is something that just reaches into your heart and makes you want to have an emotional reaction, you should immediately stop, because chances are you're getting played. Because when we see stories about two children who ran away from home and then the next day were found at their father's house by the police, and it's a 10-minute news story, I can guarantee you that in a country of 330 million people, That is happening multiple times at the exact same time that the news media decides to focus on that particular story. So my question would be why? Why do we choose particular stories to focus on? And then, why do we choose to use certain nomenclature for particular stories and not for other stories? In other words, why don't we report all of the news as white versus black and black versus white? But no, the news media chooses to use those inflammatory terms in a situation where it's most inflammatory. White cop versus black person. And now we're seeing the results of what happens in that nobody can distinguish their own thoughts. Now they think all cops are bad people. And obviously, if something makes it to the news, then that black person was absolutely justified in whatever they did. Nobody ever reads the follow-up stories. And if they do read the follow-up stories, then all of a sudden my leftist liberal friends turn into bigger conspiracy theorists than I've ever seen on the right side, Alex Jones. So here's my final thought before I switch to a different view and give you a shot on my what I call slip shifting, or truckers might crucify me for that. You're just supposed to say slipping, but nobody will ever understand what you're talking about if they don't know it in the context of driving a vehicle, and specifically shifting. So my final thought is this. Mainstream media, you know who they are. Inflammatory stories. I drive through LA and see all kinds of stuff that should have a news story behind it every day, and there's not. But yet there's a consistent focus on COVID and on Trump Orange Man bet. This is literally the narrative going on right now while this, what used to be a beautiful city of angels of all things, is turning into a frickin' garbage heap, man. A garbage heap. There's always going to be the balance that's needed between freedom and safety. And that is why our forefathers knew that there would always have to be an open discussion to constantly update the system. Who's right? Depends on what time it is. I'll give you my opinion on what's I think needs to shift right now. I believe that everything is extremely mainstream left. And I think we're seeing evidence of that. Nobody on the Democratic side in the mainstream media's eyes could do anything wrong. And nobody associated with Donald Trump can do any right. So I think that's where we are right now, and we need a serious self-examination. Because a lot of the people that I see claim themselves as centrists are not. So look inside yourself. Compare yourself to others. And see where your opinion really lies. And that's going to take a whole lot of dialogue with a whole lot of people you don't like. Get over it. All right? See you next time. I'm out.